Tonight on ABC News Live Prime. The chilling new video that shows the moment of that horrific attack in Boulder. The suspect's family now in custody after he allegedly threw 2 of his 18 Molotov cocktails into the crowd. Why police say he didn't throw more. Tonight, the wild plot uncovered. 2 Chinese nationals accused of smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen into the U.S., a fungus that is toxic to humans, livestock, and crops. Less than 1 week after leaving the White House, Elon Musk slams the president's spending bill, calling it a, quote, disgusting abomination. We're joined by a Republican senator who now has the job of getting it passed. The disturbing scene in Gaza, Israeli soldiers accused of opening fire at an aid site, killing more than 24 Palestinians, many of them trying to get food. The reason Israel says soldiers opened fire. And the anatomy of the attack. We take a close look at how Ukraine pulled off that stunning drone attack and may have crippled Russia's ability to strike. Tonight, the case of Jamie Snow. Our interview with the man serving a life sentence in prison for a murder he says he did not commit. You have any idea where you were that evening, the night he was killed?
I know exactly where I was. I was at home.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with that chilling new video of the horrific attack in Boulder, Colorado, where a man targeted a small group of peaceful demonstrators gathered to raise awareness about the hostages still being held in Gaza. And we do want to warn you, the video may be difficult to watch. The suspect is on the right there in an orange vest, disguising himself as a gardener. We see him tossing a Molotov cocktail. The trail of fire reaches the group and ultimately engulfs several people. He then sets himself on fire. After removing his burning shirt, he's still shouting and holding unlit Molotov cocktails. Today, authorities are revealing just how many explosives he had and why he didn't use them all. Tonight, the suspect is in custody and his wife and 5 children are being processed for expedited deportation. ABC's Trevor Ault leads us off in Boulder tonight.
Tonight, horrific new video showing the moment a man in Boulder, Colorado unleashed a fiery attack on a peaceful Jewish demonstration. The suspect seen in an orange vest walking toward the crowd, throwing a lit Molotov cocktail, setting fire to innocent people who'd been calling attention to the hostages still being held in Gaza. Witnesses saying the suspect yelled "Free Palestine" and appeared to light himself on fire. That suspect, 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Soliman, allegedly telling investigators he disguised himself as a gardener, even buying flowers to get as close as possible to the group. Later seen shirtless, yelling at the crowd before being taken into custody at the scene. Water. At least 12 people injured, including an 88-year-old woman who survived the Holocaust. Tonight we've learned she's now out of the hospital recovering.
She's an incredibly resilient person who is horrified.
Officials say the suspect planned the attack for a year, waiting until after his daughter graduated high school last Thursday to carry it out. And tonight, ABC News has learned he appeared to record pro-terror messages just hours before. Court documents reveal Soliman brought 18 Molotov cocktails to the park, throwing 2 of them into the crowd. Authorities suggest he might have had second thoughts, allegedly telling investigators he got scared and had never hurt anyone before. Officials say he showed no remorse, allegedly admitting he had to do it, he should do it, and he would not forgive himself if he did not do it.
He said that he had previously tried to purchase a firearm, but resorted to the Molotov cocktails when he could not purchase a gun because he was not a legal citizen.
Federal officials say Soliman is an Egyptian national in the country illegally after overstaying his tourist visa. Tonight, his wife and 5 children taken into custody by ICE, now being processed for expedited deportation.
We're also investigating to what extent his family knew about this horrific attack.
Rabbi Mark Soloway tells us 6 members of his congregation were injured in the attack, and the entire community is shaken.
We're talking literally a Jew who was targeted and burned and was lying on the ground in flames. And the image of that for our people is just something that we'll never forget, that this could happen on the streets of Boulder, Colorado in 2025.
It's happening far too often. Trevor Ault joins us now. Trevor, what's ahead in this case?
So, Linsey, the suspect is being held on $10 million bond right now. He's due back in court on Thursday, and it's possible he could still face even more charges. As for the victims, we've learned at least one of them is still in the hospital in serious condition. Several of them have been released, but even so, many of those are still looking at months of recovery for their burns. Linsey?
All right, Trevor Alt for us. Thanks so much, Trevor. 2 Chinese researchers have been accused of smuggling a dangerous fungus into the U.S., with one of them lying to authorities when questioned about it at the airport. The fungus is known to wipe out crops and sicken humans and has been called a potential weapon of terror. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
This is a microscopic view of a much different kind of potential terror weapon, one that targets crops, Fusarium graminearum, known to cause billions of dollars in agricultural damage worldwide each year. Tonight, 2 Chinese researchers are accused of smuggling the dangerous fungus into the United States, a pathogen that literally rots crops like wheat, barley, and rice, and if consumed by humans, can cause vomiting, liver damage, and birth defects.
A fungus such as this could be used to damage our agricultural industry, infect our food supply, impact our economy, and harm large numbers of people.
Authorities claim that in July of last year, they allegedly caught Zheng Young Liu with the fungus hidden in a wad of tissues in his backpack at the Detroit airport. Found in secondary screening, this round piece of filter paper with a series of circles drawn on it, and 4 clear plastic baggies with small clumps of reddish plant material inside. DOJ claims Liu lied, saying he was just there to visit his girlfriend and that he had no idea how the material got into his luggage. But later, under intense questioning, Liu allegedly admitted he smuggled the dangerous fungus into the country to conduct research on it with his girlfriend, Young Chen Jin, who was a visiting research fellow at the University of Michigan.
Our thanks to Pierre Thomas. ABC News contributor and retired Colonel Steve Gagnier joins us now. Steve, thanks so much for coming on. What concerns you most about these arrests and the fact that this bioagent made its way into the U.S.?
Yeah, Linsey, I think what's most concerning is the worst case possible situation here, and that is you had a member of the Communist Party who had a Chinese researcher working for her in a U.S. university on a pathogen that is known to be deadly to crops and to human beings. Why were they doing it? Why did they lie? Why did they sneak that pathogen into the United States? And why did that male researcher have an article on his cell phone that talked about biowarfare? So worst case here is that this was actually a plot to do something that would bring this pathogen into the United States. Best case would be that they were just researchers being paid by the Communist Party to come to the U.S., use our extraordinary research facilities to do work on things that they could take back and potentially use for their own use back in China. But the worst case here certainly gets the nod just based on the evidence that the FBI has released so far.
Is biowarfare something that you think the U.S. is prepared sufficiently for?
Look at COVID, Linsey. We didn't do very well there. There are estimates of 1 million excess deaths. And so we did fairly well with COVID. We reacted to it. But you think about something like this, where there's actually gain of function research that's done to deliberately target human beings, particularly if you do in the agricultural world, because sometimes you can create things that known pesticides or known chemicals won't be able to react to. So as John Cohen just talked about, the potential here for serious damage to the U.S. economy is actually very, very scary.
Steve Gagnier, we thank you so much, and we'll see you a little bit later on in the show. President Trump stuck to his plan to double tariffs on imported steel and aluminum today. The president signed an executive order raising the tariff on steel and aluminum to 50%. The import tax takes effect at midnight tonight. The latest tariffs come as Walmart began raising prices just a day after the CEO warned tariffs would lead to price hikes. And Elon Musk is speaking out, blasting the president's big, beautiful spending bill. Here's our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce.
Tonight, just days after leaving the Trump administration, Elon Musk ripping into the bill at the heart of President Trump's agenda. "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore," Musk posted on X. "This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination." It comes just hours after Trump declared the bill a big winner. But Musk now insisting the bill will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt.
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
Musk, the world's richest man, now threatening Republican lawmakers who backed the bill, saying shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. Adding in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people.
It's very disappointing. With all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about the one big beautiful bill.
The president eager to get the bill across the finish line as we see prices rising amid the trade war he launched. At Walmart, the nation's largest retailer, the cost of some toys way up. A baby born doll that cost $34.97 in March now costs $49.97, up roughly 43%. Last month, an Etch-a-Sketch cost $14.97. Now it's $24.99, a nearly 67% increase. Walmart's CEO had sparked Trump's anger by warning the president's tariffs would lead to higher prices. Today, Walmart telling us the new price hikes are influenced by a variety of factors.
Our thanks to Mary Bruce. We are fortunate to be joined now by Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. Senator, thank you so much for your time tonight. Let's get right to President Trump's self-proclaimed big, beautiful budget bill. Today, Elon Musk issued a blistering criticism. He posted on X, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Senator, your response to that?
Yeah, obviously, he is one American and has an option to be able to give an opinion on it. There are 215 Republican House members that went through this in pretty great detail and sent it over to the Senate. The bill itself is pretty straightforward. It prevents taxes from going up on every American. Right now, taxes are scheduled to go up on every American starting on January the 1st. The first step on that is don't allow taxes to rise on everybody. The second piece of this is how do we deal with national security issues? That is a stronger national defense. How do we secure our border to be able to make sure that we are securing our borders, adding additional protections there for the long-term effort on that? And then how do we reduce spending? It is the largest reduction in federal spending that has actually ever been done. So I'm keenly aware that there are lots of folks that say they want even more reduction of spending or they want to have dramatic changes in other parts of tax policies. But first things first, don't allow taxes to go up, secure our military, secure our border, and let's find ways to be able to reduce our spending in significant ways.
Are there aspects about the bill that concern you?
Well, right now, there are some pieces of the House bill that came over that I'd love to be able to tweak out. The Senate wants to find ways that we can actually extend those out and make it permanent so that a future change in the tax code is not done by the calendar, but it's done by Congress. So we are trying to be able to work through to say, what can we do in a way that's fiscally responsible to also extend out tax treatments so they don't have an expiration.
Your fellow Republican colleagues in the Senate, Josh Hawley, Lisa Murkowski, Jerry Moran, Susan Collins, have all raised concerns over the impact of Medicaid spending cuts. Early estimates from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office found that more than 10 million people would lose Medicaid coverage if the House bill becomes law. Should there be any cuts to Medicaid?
Yeah, so we needed to find out what that means by people, quote unquote, losing their coverage from Medicaid. The primary piece of this change is we're putting a requirement on able-bodied adults with no children to actually work. That's the same requirement that's there for food stamps, for SNAP benefits, or the temporary assistance for needy families. They have a work requirement. Medicaid does not.
You say that 1 million people illegally crossed the border after your bipartisan border bill failed last year. You, of course, worked for months on that bill. Do you think that the U.S. border would be better off today if your bill had passed?
Well, we'll see long term on this. What President Trump has done has been very remarkable in this. Obviously, several different pieces are caught up in the courts as normal in that process when you're applying the process there. But we're talking a 95 to 99% of illegal crossings in different areas of the border. That is a remarkable shift in what has actually happened just by applying current law, what many of us asked President Biden to do, but he refused to do. So when we brought that bill up now a year and a half ago, it was to get him to apply first current law. In fact, we had some aspects of it to cut off funding until current law was applied. And second was to close loopholes that probably will still be faced by the administration in the days ahead that will have to still be able to close and to be able to handle. Long term, we've got to make sure that no matter who is president, whether it's President Trump or whoever's going to be president 5 years from now, we've got to make sure that border remains secure. So to me, law is the way to be able to establish that and to make it very, very clear there should not be gaps in our national security along our border.
You were part of the Mideast delegation just back from Iraq, Lebanon, Israel, and Jordan. What steps do you think the U.S. should be taking to help ensure peace in the region, an end to the Israel-Hamas war, and also an agreement to bring all the hostages home?
Yeah, the most significant thing we can do right now around Israel is to be able to work towards bringing those hostages home and to get Hamas out of the leadership of Gaza. Everybody has their eye on the new Syrian government because it could go any strange direction in the days ahead. These are individuals that were involved with ISIS and with Al-Qaeda in the past, but have now said that they have walked away from all that and they want to represent all people in Syria. President Trump has pulled down the sanctions that were on the Assad regime, and they're giving an opportunity for them to be able to do well. Now they've got to actually be able to follow through on that. So everyone's watching that. What's happening in Lebanon right now is remarkable with the new leadership of the new prime minister and the new president there for the Lebanese armed forces, just obliterating Hamas in their military area in the southern area, and the Lebanese armed forces actually taking control to be able to protect that country. And of course, our very close relationship with Israel, spend time with Prime Minister Netanyahu and with many of the leadership in his cabinet to be able to talk through what can we do in the days ahead, including continue to be able to reaffirm our friendship with Israel, but also our clear stand against anti-Semitism.
Senator Lankford, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
In Gaza today, Israeli forces opened fire near a food distribution center. The Red Cross says 27 people were killed and more than 150 injured. Israeli officials say thousands of people were flocking toward the U.S.-backed site before dawn when they say some strayed from an official route and toward an IDF tank. The soldiers first fired warning shots into the air, then toward the crowd. Tonight, Israeli officials say the warning shots did not hit that many people, but an investigation is ongoing. In the Sean Diddy Combs trial, new details were revealed about the video showing Combs kicking and dragging his then-girlfriend. A hotel security guard described the bag of cash used to keep the video secret. We'll hear from ABC News contributor Bernarda Villalona in a moment. But first, our chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky reports from the courthouse.
Tonight, the extraordinary testimony about the 2016 hotel surveillance footage of Sean Combs attacking then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura and the lengths Combs went to keep it from being seen. Today, the jury heard the music mogul paid a hotel security guard $100,000 cash for the video and to secure his silence. Eddie Garcia testified he saw Combs with a brown paper bag, then putting stacks of $10,000 at a time through a money counter. Garcia recalled Combs asking if he wanted to count the bills. I said I trusted the machine. Garcia taking the cash and telling Combs he had handed over the only copy. He also told the jury he was made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Garcia said he first saw the video after arriving for a shift at the hotel. I was told there was a domestic dispute. He said Combs' personal assistant, Christina Coram, kept calling, trying to get the tape, eventually putting Combs on the phone. He stated that I sounded like a good guy, that I sounded like I wanted to help, that something like this could ruin him. Garcia said Combs promised he would take care of me. When arrangements were made and Garcia arrived with a thumb drive containing the video, he said Combs greeted him, "Eddie, my angel."
The contents of that video ultimately revealed. Aaron Katersky joins us from outside the federal courthouse once again. Aaron, who might the jury hear from tomorrow?
There's going to be an expert to testify about that video. So, Linsey, the jury will see it again and again. And then they're expected to hear from a woman named Brianna Bongolan, who was a friend of Cassie Ventura, who also claimed that Sean Combs once dangled her over a balcony at Cassie Ventura's apartment. And then at some point, perhaps as soon as tomorrow, Linsey, the jury is expected to hear from another alleged victim of Sean Combs, a woman who will be testifying under the pseudonym Jane. Linsey?
Aaron Katersky for us. Thanks so much, Aaron. And let's bring in ABC News contributor Bernarda Villalona, who's been in the courtroom following the trial. Jumping off of what Aaron just said, this alleged victim, Jane, who could be called tomorrow, what might she be able to tell jurors?
So Jane is going to be a crucial witness for the prosecution. And the reason why, Linsey, is because she is victim number 2 on the indictment. 2 of the charges strictly pertain to her, having to deal with the sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, and then the transportation to engage in prostitution. So she is a victim on both of those counts. So in terms of Jane, what we're going to hear is going to be another spin-off of Cassie, because we're going to go back right into those hotel rooms to talk about those freak-offs, to hear what happened during those freak-offs, to hear about these escorts, to hear about what Sean Combs was doing, and also to hear about the violence that Jane underwent under Combs when she didn't want to participate in these freak-offs. So again, another spin-off of Cassie having to deal with Jane, but it wasn't an 11-year relationship. It was a shorter relationship. But Linsey, also another thing, there's mention that there may be audio recordings, possibly of a recording that Jane had of Sean Combs, that after the investigation started taking place, that it's possible that he tried to change her mind and change the narrative about what happened because he saw an investigation coming.
And so we could hear that potentially tomorrow?
Yes, through Jane, either tomorrow or Thursday, but that is something they talked about doing their opening statements and doing bail applications earlier in these proceedings.
Let's go back to the payoff that the security guard received the money from Combs in regard to being able to get that video. What's the takeaway ultimately, do you think, for the jury there?
I think there was a few huge takeaways that the prosecution won with giving Eddie Garcia immunity. Now you see the reason that they had to give him immunity, because he took money and, of course, didn't report it on his taxes. But in terms of what the jury got is this obstruction of justice part, having to deal with the racketeering conspiracy, also dealing with the criminal enterprise that Christina Quorum, as well as security, as well as Sean Combs, were both in agreement altogether to try to get this video by any means possible. But a huge takeaway is that you have Sean Combs directly involved in trying to get this video because he knows of the damage that it could cause in terms of he's talking to Eddie, ultimately calling him Eddie, my angel. He's talking to him multiple times. And then he saw that it was so important that Sean Combs was like, I'm going to handle this and give him the money and meet with him. But also a threatening part, because he asked for their identification. Eddie's identification, his driver license, the driver's license of the supervisor of Eddie, as well as another security officer, which they kind of played a little game with him because it wasn't the original security officer that responded, but Sean Combs believed it was. So in terms of this is insurance that Sean Combs had, because we all need to be on the same page, according to Sean Combs.
Any chance that we're going to hear from Christina Quorum, his personal assistant at that time?
Linsey, if Christina Quorum were to testify, number one, she's going to be given immunity. She has to be given immunity, either given immunity or given a cooperation agreement to testify, because there is criminal liability for her. It's quite clear because we've heard her name so many times. But if the prosecution is able to get her to testify and she's cooperative on the stand, I think it's game over for Sean Combs.
Really?
I think it's game over because she gives you the insight that you need and gives you this criminal enterprise and all the dirty deeds that Sean Combs allegedly entered into.
And just in the last 30 seconds here, just for viewers at home to understand, because we did ultimately see this video and supposedly the one copy was destroyed, we still don't know how that copy ultimately got out.
Exactly, and this jury doesn't know either, because for their concern, it's not relevant for the charges itself. So we'll get to the bottom of this at some point, right?
Bernarda, always appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. There's new reporting tonight in the search for the 2 remaining fugitives of 10 who broke out of a New Orleans jail 18 days ago. A video that surfaced on social media appears to show one of the inmates still on the run. He says he did not escape, but was actually released. Our Faith Abube is back on the story tonight.
Tonight, the eye-opening plea from a fugitive asking for help from President Trump and rappers. Authorities in New Orleans now studying several videos posted online, appearing to show one of the 2 remaining escapees in that brazen jailbreak more than 2 weeks ago.
My name is Antoine Madison. People that been through the system that know it's corrupt. Lil Wayne, Donald Trump, please, I'm asking for help.
In the video, Massey repeatedly denying the charges against him. Court records obtained by ABC News showing he pleaded guilty to a domestic battery charge in St. Tammany Parish back in March before being transferred to that Orleans Parish jail on multiple other charges. Law enforcement sources telling ABC News Massey has a history of attempting escape as recently as 2019. And tonight, the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office saying, quote, if the individual depicted in the video is indeed Antoine Massey, we strongly urge him to come forward and turn himself in to the proper authorities.
Our thanks to Faith. Extreme weather is threatening millions tonight. The same system is pushing floodwaters through Wichita streets. Meanwhile, there are air quality alerts in Minnesota, smoke from Canadian wildfires obscuring the Minneapolis skyline, and darkened skies in San Juan, Puerto Rico, as a massive Sahara dust cloud drifts toward the U.S. mainland. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z is tracking it all for us. Hey, Ginger.
Hey, Lindsay, we just got a brand new tornado watch in Oklahoma. It includes Tulsa right on down to the Red River along the state line there of Texas. Also, the newer watches for severe weather, damaging wind, the main threat, Abilene up to Davenport. This powerful cold front has already caused flash flood emergencies. It's spun up tornadoes, and it could still do that yet tonight. There are also two other pockets of flooding that we're watching, from Las Vegas to Miami. Miami's having day 2 of more than 4 inches of rain. Some places will end up easily with over 8 inches in 2 days. So let's talk about the timing, because by tomorrow morning, Chicago will be getting this early for their commute. The thunderstorms blowing through down to St. Louis too. And then on top of this, we put the map with the hazy skies on the front end. That's kind of the smoke that's been around for the weekend and more. That is going to still be in the upper atmosphere, but you want that near surface smoke that's going to impact air quality. Wisconsin, back through parts of Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri could still see it. And you mentioned that Saharan dust, Lindsay. Yes, the same pocket of dust this time of year that travels across the entire Atlantic is going to be coming through. That is good news as far as storm or hurricane development. It usually tamps that down. Not so great news if you've got allergies to some of that. Lindsay?
Oh, things are only going to get worse then. All right, Ginger, our thanks to you. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the Navy to strip honored gay rights activist Harvey Milk's name from a ship. A DoD official said the timing of this decision during Pride Month was intentional. Milk served in the Navy before becoming one of the first openly gay men elected to public office in 1977. He was assassinated a year later. The USNS Harvey Milk is one of several ships named after prominent civil rights leaders and activists. A new name has not yet been announced. Tonight, we want to bring you the story of Jamie Snow. He has been in prison for 24 years, convicted of murdering an 18-year-old gas station attendant. It's a crime to this day Snow maintains he did not commit. Our team spent months digging into this complex story. We got a chance to meet Snow's family and visit with him behind bars. Tonight, here's a preview of our in-depth report, The Case of Jamie Snow. When you were found guilty, what went through your mind?
It's crazy, but all of a sudden it got really quiet and the lights got really bright. And it was like I couldn't believe it. You know, I just, the whole time I was thinking, there's no way that they're going to be able to convict me for this. There's no way. I didn't do it.
Jamie Snow is serving life in prison, convicted of murdering a man he says he never met in a crime he says he did not commit.
Welcome back to Wrongful Conviction, where we've got a case that's making my head spin. It's crazy on so many levels. And to help us tell this story today, we have a legend in the innocence community. John Grisham, welcome to Wrongful Conviction.
Happy to be here, Jason.
A real-life page-turner. Snow's case has caught a lot of attention.
Did you ever write a story about Jamie Snow?
I mean, look at the story. How intriguing is it?
Famed crime author John Grisham, known for bestsellers turned into hit movies like The Pelican Brief and series The Innocent Man.
In small towns like Ada, the prosecutors and the police were under enormous pressure to solve 2 sensational murders.
The police made a composite sketch.
Music producer and podcaster Jason Flom, as well as the Exoneration Project, agree something doesn't add up.
Jamie's case is really remarkable in how little evidence there ever was against him. Jamie's case has everything that we would look for in a case that involves a wrongful conviction.
In 2001, Snow was convicted for the 1991 cold case murder of 18-year-old gas station attendant William Little in Bloomington, Illinois. Since then, one key eyewitness has recanted his testimony, and Snow's legal team petitioned the court asking for DNA evidence from that day to be retested using modern technology, and for some evidence to be tested for the first time.
The technology, when it comes to the ability to figure out whose DNA, how many people's DNA, where that DNA can be traced, is light years away from what it was in '91.
More than 70,000 have signed an online petition supporting Snow. Snow's daughters are among those petitioners.
I have lost some photos, and it's like heartbreaking.
34 years ago, his family was his alibi. Today, they say they're collateral damage.
So it hasn't just been your dad who's been punished?
No, our whole family's been punished.
You can catch our entire story, The Case of Jamie Snow, in a special half-hour edition of ABC News Live Prime, streaming at 8 p.m. Eastern and on Hulu and abcnews.com after that. Coming up, the FDA recalled several tomato brands in 3 states due to elevated risk of salmonella and potentially death. And the unprecedented Ukrainian drone operation inside Russia. What could this attack mean for the war? Tonight in our Prime Focus, we take an in-depth look at the operation and how both countries are responding. Welcome back, everyone. It was an unprecedented and well-executed Ukrainian drone operation deep inside Russia this weekend, followed today by a similarly brazen underwater attack on the Russian-built bridge connecting the Russian mainland to Crimea, the Ukrainian peninsula Russia has occupied now for more than a decade. Call it guerrilla tactics, call it asymmetrical warfare. But can Ukraine's bold operations actually force a recalcitrant Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table? We'll talk to ABC News military analyst Steve Gagnon about that shortly. But first, our Tom Sophie Burridge has this report.
It was a series of stunning strikes on Russian airfields, damaging or destroying, Ukraine says, about a third of Russia's fleet of strategic bombers. Codenamed Operation Spiderweb, the attack was 18 months in the making. Ukraine's security service smuggling 150 rudimentary quadcopter drones into Russia, concealing them in secret compartments in containers. Russian truck drivers then unwittingly transporting those containers to locations close to 5 military air bases, 3 in western Russia and 2 in far eastern Siberia. On Sunday, the roofs of those containers suddenly opening and the drones loaded with explosives taking off. Each drone, Ukraine says, then piloted remotely towards a target. With Russia's defences caught off guard, the drones hurtling into those bombers parked on the ground, some of them capable of carrying nuclear weapons. Satellite imagery showing several badly damaged planes at 2 of the Russian air bases. Ukraine's Secret Service saying it destroyed a dozen aircraft and damaged around 30 more. It was a remarkable move from Ukraine, proving that despite being outgunned and outnumbered on the battlefield, it can still land impressive and embarrassing blows to the Kremlin, destroying the very aircraft which have been pounding Ukrainian cities with cruise and ballistic missiles for more than 3 years. And not for the first time, Ukraine showing the world new ways of waging war, pioneering tactics, destroying sophisticated aircraft built for tens of millions of dollars, with drones costing just a few hundred. The ingenuity of Ukraine's attack reminiscent of Israel's covert operation against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Pages and walkie-talkies secretly loaded with explosives, distributed to Hezbollah and used by its members. The pages simultaneously exploding, then the walkie-talkies the day after, killing more than 30 people, wounding around 3,000. Today, with Russia still reeling from Sunday's drone strikes, another Ukrainian operation. Ukraine's Secret Service releasing this video saying it caused a powerful underwater explosion on part of the vast bridge linking Russia to Crimea. No official comment from Russia so far, and there were no casualties. In Ukraine overnight, Russia's striking back, attacking the centre of the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy with cluster munitions, killing at least 4 people and injuring more than 20 more. Moscow demonstrating it still has many more bombers and missiles and vast stocks of lethal drones to continue escalating its war. But Ukraine is still savouring its success. President Zelensky calling that drone operation brilliant, and without naming the US, saying it shows allies that have wavered in their support that Ukraine is strong and will not surrender.
Those drone attacks.
In an interview with our Martha Raddatz, Zelensky warning Russia will pay a price if the war goes on.
And unless they will stop, we will continue.
Russian and Ukrainian delegations meeting for less than 90 minutes Monday in Istanbul, making no progress towards ending the war. Russia is now reportedly mounting a major summer offensive in eastern Ukraine. Today, one of Putin's top officials calling for the complete destruction of the Ukrainian regime and promising an even harsher retribution for that devastating Ukrainian drone attack deep inside Russian territory.
Our thanks to Tom Sufi-Burge. And joining us once again, it's time to discuss what Ukraine's most recent actions might mean for the future of the war is ABC News contributor Steve Ganyard. Steve, thanks for coming back. Ukrainian hitting Russian bombers thousands of miles away using local drones is certainly a remarkable way for David to strike Goliath. Are major powers like the U.S. with our multi-billion-dollar aircraft carriers taking stock here?
Sorry, you bet they are, Lindsay. If you think about what the USS Truman has been dealing with for the past couple of months in the Red Sea, though, they've been dealing with these kinds of drone attacks. The problem is that they've been using $2 million missiles to knock down $20,000 drones. So the U.S. industrial base does not have the ability to continue that kind of expenditure of expensive missiles on very inexpensive drones. The real concern here is that an adversary could do to the U.S. what the Ukrainians did to Russia. Think about it. There are hundreds of thousands of these containers, of these Connex boxes that are in the United States just from China at any one time. So you could put these anywhere in the United States. They come into a port, 50 to 100,000 into LA alone, and they only inspect about 1 to 3% of them. So you sneak it into the US, you have the same sort of false top that the Ukrainians had. You pop out a drone near a Navy base, say San Diego, say Pearl Harbor, an Air Force base in Phoenix or in Tampa, and you take out everything along the line. So this is something that's quite concerning from a homeland security perspective because there really is no good defense at this point.
Certainly sounds like it ups the ante. And Steve, staying on drones for a moment here, there are high-tech defense systems to knock out incoming supersonic missiles. Is there anything similar on the market to defend against drones?
Yeah, Lindsay, the U.S. government and the U.S. Military spent billions of dollars over the years trying to figure out how do you go after drones? How do you protect against drones? I think the real key here is how autonomy is coming into its own, how unmanned systems, things without pilots, these drones that are very difficult to defend against. So there are some things that are on the horizon. They're very expensive, using things like microwaves to knock these drones down. But there's also some things where the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy are doing. They're going back to old things like shotguns and bullets, and they're using missiles that were built really and made in World War II, and putting very expensive seeker heads on these rockets so that they can begin to drop things down. So the U.S. is trying some high-end fixes, but they're also going back and trying some low-end fixes. But there's no good answer at this point, Lindsay.
And just about 30 seconds here to answer this, but based on Ukraine's most recent attack, do you think that that at all is perhaps significant enough to bring Russia back to the negotiating table?
In a word, no. The Russians are not prepared for a deal. They don't want a deal. Putin still has very strong support for the war in Russia. And so until they can be convinced, they're not going to come to the negotiating table, and we won't see a peace treaty.
All right, Steve Ganyard for us. Thanks so much, Steve. Coming up, 3-year-old Maddie McCann was with her parents when she went missing in Portugal 18 years ago. Why investigators were searching for her again today. The first Goodyear blimp took flight 100 years ago today. We'll tell you how the company celebrated when we come back.
No helicopter looking for the murder. 2 in the morning, got the fat burger. Even saw the lights of the Goodyear blimp, and it read Ice Cube's a pimp.
From rapper Ice Cube's famous shout out to wartime naval patrols, the Goodyear blimp is an American icon. And the great airship is celebrating a major milestone, turning 100 years old today. To mark the occasion, we have a look at the Goodyear blimp by the numbers. On June 3rd, 1925, Pilgrim became the first blimp to take flight. The company built more than 150 airships for the Navy to serve in World War II. And in 1930, the giant airships became the first in the world to carry a lit neon sign so the company's name could be seen after dark, sealing its place in American marketing history. In 1955, the blimp flew over the Rose Bowl and has been a regular at major sporting events since, providing both aerial TV coverage and highly visible advertising. There are currently 4 Goodyear blimps in service and just 10 full-time pilots. To get that job, they must have a commercial pilot license and complete an additional 250 hours of specialized training. Goodyear says the blimp has covered more than 2,500 events and taken more than 500,000 passengers for rides over the years. A big happy birthday to the blimp and all who keep it flying. Coming up, we're sitting down with 7-time platinum artist Lil Tecca to find out about the new sounds and styles in his latest project in our Prime Playlist Shuffle. But first, the incredible images revealing a disaster at sea hidden for more than a century. Little Maddie McCann went missing 18 years ago. We'll tell you about the renewed search for her today. A Milwaukee man facing criminal charges sent threatening letters to the president. What was he really doing? And tomatoes distributed in some southern states could be deadly. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown.
Police have begun new searches in the case of Madeleine McCann. The searches are focused near the Portuguese resort where the then 3-year-old British toddler disappeared in 2007 while on vacation with her family. Portuguese police said Monday the searches were requested by a German public prosecutor. A German national, Christian Bruckner, is considered the main suspect in the case. Though he has not been charged and has denied any involvement, he's currently serving an unrelated prison sentence for rape. While many U.S. stores are lowering their expectations for the year due to economic uncertainty, Dollar General is raising them. The chain says it's experienced a quarterly sales record of just over $10 billion, a 5% increase over the year before. The news comes with stores and customers bracing for the impact of tariffs, leading more Americans to look towards bargain stores for shopping. Officials say a migrant accused of writing letters threatening President Trump was framed. The Department of Homeland Security originally said Ramon Morales Reyes threatened to shoot and kill the president. But a Wisconsin court filing says the actual writer was found to be Demetric Scott, who wanted Morales Reyes deported so he couldn't testify against him in an upcoming trial. Scott was charged with identity theft, felony intimidation of a witness, and bail jumping. The FDA raised an ongoing tomato recall to its highest warning level over concerns of salmonella contamination. The recall was issued last month for certain Williams Farms Repack LLC labeled tomatoes and H&C Farms labeled tomatoes. The FDA has raised the recall to a Class 1 designation, indicating a risk of serious health issues or death. The recalled tomatoes were distributed between April 23rd and 28th in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Tom Girardi, the once famed attorney and husband of a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star, was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison for stealing from clients. The 86-year-old Girardi, the estranged husband of Housewives star Erica Jane, was found guilty of wire fraud last summer. He was accused of leading a years-long scheme to steal millions in settlement money from injured clients. New footage off the coast of San Diego shows a World War I-era submarine that sank over a century ago. Researchers from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution were conducting a deep-sea training dive when they spotted the vessel at the bottom of the ocean. It had collided with another submarine during a training exercise in 1917, killing 19 crew members on board.
Now to our segment, Prime Playlist Shuffle, where we sit down with artists transforming the music industry. Our next guest is a New York-born phenomenon who first broke out onto the scene in 2019 with the 9-time platinum Ransom. Ever since, Lil Tecca has shown no signs of stopping. Now with 27.3 million monthly Spotify listeners, he's stepping into a brand new era with his upcoming album Dopamine, which includes the genre-bending track Owa Owa. Let's take a listen.
Bedroom and shorty like Lady Gaga. She want a pop star, roster. I got no hoes on my roster, I'm proper. Look through my record, say that you a Kasha. It's a long time trying to get to a Kasha. Trying to know what I'm on, ready to know that you gon' hit me like. Trying to know what I'm going.
Lil Tecca, kind enough to join us in studio. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So your upcoming album, Dopamine, is about to drop. Do you feel at all that this is a turning point in your sound and your storytelling?
100%. Definitely more creatively intentional. The story is way more clear to hear what I'm talking about. And yeah, it's a very exciting project.
Now, Dark Thoughts came out, preempted, I guess, the album coming out. Of course, the success of that first single is hugely important.
Yeah.
And it has just gone to the top of the charts on Spotify, Billboard. How significant was that for you to see that so well received?
It was amazing to see that it was so well received, honestly. I just give credit to God and my team and just hard work and the fans, of course. But yeah, it was really cool to have the first single just pop out the gate, just going crazy.
You mentioned the fans. What kind of fan feedback did you receive?
Immediate, just happiness, like very excited. I think they were able to tell that I'm kind of taking a different creative approach with this album, introducing new sounds, new tempos, new topics and stuff like that.
How do you balance personal growth with fan expectation? Because a lot of times people want more of the same, but at the same time, you're trying to evolve in your sound.
I think it's easier when my fans actually want me to evolve. Of course, I have staple sounds that they want me to return to. It's like, okay, you're still Tecca in there, but they want to see me try different things just because they've seen me do it in the work. So it's like, just keep turning left.
You have been all gas, no brakes from day one. What motivates you?
Just not wasting any time, honestly. I only have one life. And now that I know what I'm kind of here to do, I just make sure I'm doing it.
You're going to be performing Summer Smash on the 21st in Chicago, then on the 23rd going on tour in Europe. What do you most look forward to when you hit the stage?
Honestly, just the mosh pits. Like, just seeing the whole crowd jump. That's my favorite time.
Just seeing their reaction to the music.
Yeah.
Does it change at all what you plan based on seeing their reaction?
Honestly, me and my fans have a very similar taste, so I could kind of plan according to when I want to give them a break or when I want them to turn up, whatever the case may be.
When was the moment that you realized, wow, I'm pretty big. People like my music. They like my sound.
I think it comes in like stages. You have those first times where you hit 1,000 plays and you're like, oh my goodness. And then it gets to 10,000 and 100,000. And it's just this gradual progression of like, I'm growing. And I don't really know when the moment was, but I could definitely say like Rolling Loud New York was like, okay, this is serious.
All right, Lil Tecca, well, we wish you all the best, continued success. Lil Tecca's latest singles, Owa Owa and Dark Thoughts, are available wherever you stream your music, and keep an eye out for his upcoming album, Dopamine, which is dropping soon. That is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.